And not all men are just at home listening to Joe Rogan, being angry or being recruited to fascism. Some just need therapy, like we all do. I go to therapy. That's great. But I think we need to have a real conversation about that rather than allowing this kind of drift toward this faux masculinity.
All right, you guys. So today, JD Vance went on Joe Rogan, and you can now chalk it up as another member of the Trump ticket who has gone on the very show that both Kamala Harris and Tim Walz are way too scared to do. Now, for the record, I thought JD absolutely killed it on Rogan, right? He was sharp. He was articulate. I think he's very likable in many ways. He sort of, for the people who don't like Trump's bombastic personality, provides a very disarming, kind of soft-spoken image to the Trump ticket while still simultaneously being very sharp about expressing some of the core ideas that summarize MAGA or America First or whatever you want to call it. Now, with that said, the MSNBC reaction to Joe Rogan has gone completely off the rails. It's very funny too because they demonized him for a very long time. Remember back in the day when CNN was trying to get him banned from Spotify and the Democrats were all in recognition. But then suddenly when they realized, oh wait, he might platform Donald Trump. No, we love Joe Rogan. Please bring Kamala on. But they're now back to saying, I mean, just take a listen to this take right here. Men are just at home listening to Joe Rogan being angry or being recruited to fascism. So that is their take. Because Joe Rogan had Trump and Vance on the podcast and it was an open platform where they could speak. By the way, again, he invited Kamala on the pod as well. He's recruiting young men to fascism. Take a listen.
This is actually for all men. You know, I think men are in crisis, actually, in this country. I think that plays out different ways. And not all men are in crisis, of course. And not all men are just at home listening to Joe Rogan, being angry or being recruited to fascism. Some just need therapy, like we all do. I go to therapy. That's great. But I think we need to have a real conversation about that rather than allowing this kind of drift toward this faux masculinity that we see Donald Trump evincing.
And what I see is...
So because young men are watching Joe Rogan and not MSNBC and The View or whatever, apparently that means young men are being recruited to fascism. Folks, if you enjoy the content, please do us a big favor. Hit that subscribe button down below if you are new to the channel. And why should you subscribe? Because doing so goes a long way in ensuring we can keep bringing you these videos. We are just now days away from election night, which we will be streaming, by the way. Never been a better time to support the work. Get plugged in by hitting that subscribe button. Now, it's very interesting too, because, you know, I have several thoughts on this, so let's just break it down. First of all, if this is true, if Joe Rogan is such a scary podcast and, you know, young men are being recruited to fascism, wouldn't it perhaps be a pretty good idea for Kamala to go on that show and try to pull young men away? I mean, if this is such an existential crisis, wouldn't it maybe be a good idea for Kamala to go on the podcast to explain why there's a different way and young men don't need to be recruited to fascism, and she can go explain why there actually is a place for young men in her movement? But she doesn't, right? She has not done it. At this point, it's pretty clear she will not be doing a Rogan interview. And again, if it's really that important, then that's something to consider. On top of that, it's very interesting too, because the liberal media constantly talks about how Republican or conservative rhetoric will alienate women, especially young women, because of abortion and all this other stuff, which I think there may be some truth to. I don't know if alienating necessarily is the right word there, but it is true. Yes, Republicans in this election especially do have a female problem. Women, especially young women and unmarried women and childless women, etc., especially favor Kamala Harris. But at the same time, I will say, with comments like this, you are waking up the sleeping giant that is young men, especially the young men who are disaffected largely with the political system, maybe not super tapped in, you know, like the very type of people who just want to watch sports and enjoy their lives in peace. Yeah, now you're going out there demonizing them, saying these types of things. Yeah, it certainly says a lot. But that said, I mean, let's also be clear about this. And we said this before, but we'll say it again. The reason why Kamala Harris did not do the Joe Rogan interview is not because of so-called scheduling conflicts. I mean, this is the Daily Beast wrote this week. It says a former senior advisor to the VP thinks it should be Joe Rogan dropping everything to interview Kamala Harris and not the other way around. Basically saying if Rogan wants to interview her, then he needs to go to the campaign trail and sit down for a 10-minute interview after the rally. It's like, no, actually, he doesn't. He has the biggest podcast in the world. You guys apparently reached out to him because you wanted to do an interview. Don't use this excuse now. He has no obligation to go and fly to you. The whole point of his podcast is that you come inside the studio and go talk. It is just ridiculous. And this reply is so true as well. It says, Joe Rogan is not CBS. He doesn't work for Kamala Harris. She can go and do his show the same way everyone else on earth has done his show or not. Donald Trump traveled to Texas to do his show. So did JD Vance. Kamala Harris, as Joe Rogan brought up in yesterday's video, literally was in Texas last Friday. She didn't show up, not because of scheduling conflicts. It's literally because, again, she is scared to do the interview because it's not a format that would particularly favor her, because why? She'd have to act like a real human being. Not very capable of that.
We're thrilled to be here. I'm thrilled to be in Pennsylvania. We actually recorded an episode of Joe Rogan this morning, so we started out in Austin, Texas, and we're closing out.
How long was it, JD? How long were you in Rogan's
Almost
studio?
4 hours. Almost 4 hours. So, I've officially done more interview time than Kamala Harris has the entire campaign just today. So, we're look. I drive.
Yeah, exactly. Young men do not find Kamala Harris unlikable because they are being recruited to fascism, as MSNBC is saying, or even just because they're sexist, they don't like a woman. No, it's literally because she is incapable of acting like a real human being. And what is the Joe Rogan experience fundamentally? It's not some type of hardcore cable news interview or town hall. It's literally just a platform where people get to know you as a person. And I'm glad to see now even Joe Rogan is recognizing, yeah, there's a reason why Kamala never came on my show.
Like, where are you going?
Yeah.
You want to get the lights that they use with air traffic controller, like, come this way.
Yeah, come this way.
Like, help her out. Do you think she wears an earpiece?
I wouldn't be surprised. I have no idea.
The earpiece one was amazing.
But man,
the little
she just
Bluetooth thing, the earring.
It's astonishing. She talks. The only way I can describe it is she talks in circles.
Yeah,
right. It's like
Tim Dillon says it's like she does gypsy curses because she speaks in gypsy curses. That's very good.
Yeah, so as you can see already, Joe Rogan, now that Kamala won't come on his show, he's just saying the truth, right? He's like, all right, you know what? Screw it. So yeah, there you have it on that front.
But it's, we need to build an opportunity economy, because if Americans don't have opportunity, then they're not going to have the opportunity to be Americans. And it's like, what the hell?
The opportunity to
did you
generate
just say?
wealth and generational wealth. Like, wait a minute. Do you know how few people generate generational wealth? That means you have so much money, you're going to give it to other generations.
Well, but there's actually, okay, I mean, I give a lot of speeches, so there's actually a skill to this. I think that she is the Michael Jordan of using as many words as possible to say as little as possible. There's actually a certain gift that she has, because you listen to her talk.
Yeah, and you can get away with that in a campaign speech, because nobody can stand up there and challenge you. You can even get away with that in, say, a 20-minute interview. Because, you know what? That's a great point by JD Vance. You know what she's always doing? She is stalling for time. Right? Just get to the end of the interview and then run away, and they always cut it short, and her campaign staff is making sure, hey, we said you only get 20 minutes? Get out of here. We're done, you know? It's very true. It's a fantastic point. And again, that is exactly why she was so scared of this format, because a lot of people are saying, why would you not go on Joe Rogan? It's the biggest podcast. Yes, it is. But when you look like an idiot for 2 to 3 hours, honestly, it's probably the smart thing to dodge doing that interview in the first place. I think it's frankly comical that her campaign ever put out the possibility. You know, they were writing articles about how actually we're in talks to do the show. They were never going to do the show. Never. And there's a reason for it. There's an obvious reason. So anyways, there you have it. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, let me know your thoughts on this in the comment section down below. Are you being recruited to fascism? I don't know.